What's good? It's your boy Fanon. All right, we got a big weekend of fights coming up. And the biggest one this week, more for the most part, is Adrien Broner versus Jesse Vargas. And for me, this is a must-win fight for Adrien Broner, and it's a must-win fight for Jesse Vargas. And whoever wins this fight, I think moves on or remains a contender for championship belts. And the guy that loses, I think is really, it takes a major hit to his career. And I think that's the case for both, as I said, both Adrien Broner, but also Jesse Vargas. Before I get into that, we're going to do a live stream later today. Hopefully you will be able to attend. You'll accept my invitation to attend. The best way to attend and know when the live stream occurs is to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so that you can be notified of it. And we really do have very good conversations with mature boxing fans, so I hope that you accept my invitation. Now, with that said, Jesse Vargas has said some things. Adrien Broner has said some things. Kevin Cunningham, the trainer, has said some things that I'm going to cover. But, I did a video earlier where I said that, this is going to be a time where, I'm going to ride with Adrien Broner in this fight. And it's not necessarily, and here I just got to make an admission. It's not necessarily something that I see in the ring. It's more that it's just something that I really would like. And I'm hoping that this guy can get over this hump and can win this fight, because I really know, even though I said that it means a lot to Jesse Vargas, and it means a lot to Adrien Broner, but I think it does mean more for Adrien Broner. And I think this is a winnable fight. But also I think that if Adrien Broner wins, then it'll speak a lot about what discipline and a change of scenery can do for somebody that is having a difficult go at it. Now, when I say that, I don't just mean within the boxing world. I mean just in life in general. Adrien Broner came out of the gates as a professional, very fast, won titles in different weight divisions, was looking like he was going to be and getting marketed as the next Floyd Mayweather Jr. But then just a series of self-promotional missteps, I'll be polite in when I phrase that, and lackluster performances in the ring has derailed that. But I don't think that anybody would really question Adrien Broner's talent. And I think, as I said in an earlier video, that the reason that people are choosing Vargas to win this fight has more to do with them picking against Adrien Broner than it is that they're picking for Jesse Vargas. So what I'm hoping in this fight, and I got to tell you, it's an emotional thing. It's not an X's and O situation for me. I could very well see Jesse Vargas winning this fight, and just the way that my mind is set, the things that I've observed in Adrien Broner. Honestly, man, it's hard for me not to believe that Jesse Vargas would win this fight. But with Kevin Cunningham and what Kevin Cunningham is saying about the training camp for Adrien Broner, for the things that I've heard about Adrien Broner's training camp this time around, I'm hoping that those type of fixes being applied to the career of a young man can manifest themselves in a great outcome, and it could show other boxers and other people in other walks of life that if you focus, you become disciplined, that you can come back from a tough position. So there's an article that came out where Broner's trainer talks about this, and he says improved discipline will show against Vargas. Kevin Cunningham was as skeptical as anyone. The veteran trainer had heard many times from Adrien Broner that the inconsistent Cincinnati native was ready to rededicate himself to preparing properly for his fights. That's why when Broner called Cunningham about training him following his decision defeat to Mikey Garcia, Cunningham told Broner that he'd have to do everything Cunningham asked or their partnership wouldn't work. Admittedly, Broner became complacent while working with longtime trainer Mike Safford. According to Broner, he had started treating Safford as more of a friend than a trainer. Cunningham, a former St. Louis police officer, is known as a no-nonsense disciplinarian. He had assisted Stafford in Broner's corner, but this would have to be a different kind of deal. Broner has proved what he promised Cunningham during the training camp they've just wrapped up at Cunningham's gym in West Palm Beach, Florida. That'll be proven, Cunningham says, when Broner boxes Jesse Vargas in a 12-round, 144-pound main event Saturday night at the Barclays Center in New York. I told him up front what I expected and what we needed to do and how things had to go, said Cunningham, who estimates he has known Broner since Broner was an 8-year-old, 160-pound amateur. I told him that if he wasn't ready to adhere to what I'm expecting, he shouldn't waste his time or mine. He has done everything I've asked for of him, everything and more. He's going to show that he's ready to get himself together. He's going to show the world on April 21st that he's rededicated himself. He's ready to reclaim the throne. The 28-year-old Broner must beat Las Vegas's Vargas to at least regain some momentum after a largely one-sided 12-round loss to Garcia on July 29th at Barclays Center. Low punch output typically has been one of Broner's problems. Cunningham has emphasized throwing more punches during the training camp, as well as maintaining focus for all 3 minutes of each round. I think sometimes he could be a little more focused, Cunningham said, and have a little more discipline in a lot of different things he's doing. I think he's trying to turn the corner and get things moving in the right direction. Broner has trained alongside Gervonta Davis during this camp at Cunningham's gym. Baltimore's Davis will square off against Argentina's Jesus Cuellar on the Broner-Vargas undercard for a version of the WBA super featherweight title. I think coming over here with me, he's finding a lot more structure in the training camp, said Cunningham, who's most known for his work with St. Louis natives and former champions Devin Alexander and Corey Spinks. It's a totally different training camp that I have him doing. I think he's ready for some new leadership. He's ready to be a little more disciplined in his profession, and I think it's going to show on the 21st. Now, while it could be argued that, what's different. This is what Adrien Broner says. This is what Adrien Broner says every training camp. And he said for several years. He definitely said that leading into the fight with Mikey Garcia. But here, he's actually made steps to change his team and to go with a guy. And I can tell you, man, I've watched Kevin Cunningham, clearly from the outside. And the work that he did with Devin Alexander, the work that he did with Corey Spinks, and to be able to go with a guy like Kevin Cunningham and get away from an old trainer, admit that he saw Mike Safford as more of a friend and less of a trainer. And when you say somebody's more of a friend and less than a trainer, that means that you're not really listening to him. And sometimes things do get stale. And you have trainers, and you can get somebody. Sometimes one trainer can get a fighter, only so far. Especially when a fighter doesn't really believe and isn't willing to accept that he needs to change, inside the ring and out. But I do believe that the majority of what Adrien Broner needs to train is inside the ring, letting his hands go, trying to win. Try to win the first round, the second round, the third round, instead of just allowing yourself to get behind 3 and 4 rounds and then trying to pick up the pace in the middle rounds towards the late rounds. That whole idea that I think that he got when he was patterning himself so heavily off of Floyd Mayweather Jr. of, taking somebody into deep water and drowning him. And really what would happen is that he would take him into deep water, but he would find himself underwater. And he's now trying to get his head above water and trying to catch up to people in the later stages of the fight. So hopefully what he'll do is focus from winning the early portion of the rounds, getting ahead on the scorecards, letting his hands go, letting these cats know if they just gonna stud up there and try to start throwing punches and laying them on them, that they got to worry about something coming back at them. So, that's what I'm hoping. And like I said, man, I'm not gonna sit up here and say that I know for sure that Adrien Broner is gonna win, or that my belief that he's win, and really my hope that he wins, has something to do with what I've seen in the ring against other fighters, or what I've seen with Jesse Vargas. Now, what I will say about Jesse Vargas, and I have said it before, is I think Jesse Vargas is a good guy from everything that I've seen from him. The only beef that I ever had with Jesse Vargas was the fact that he left Mayweather when Mayweather originally kind of put him on, and then went over there to chase that. Well, I think he did. He got the fights that he wanted over there in Top Rank. But then then it wasn't going very far for him. And after that, he's coming back over here to coming back over to the PBC. And I think that, he might have been better off as far as being active if he would have stayed with them the whole time. But aside from that, I just don't see anything particularly special about him. I think that he is kind of the antithesis to Adrien Broner, that he's very disciplined. He executes his game plan. He's really about business, and he's just a solid all-around guy where kind of like a Badu Jack, where that he's going to come prepared to fight. But I really don't think he's this real exceptional fighter. But what he has to say, he said some interesting things about it as well, understanding and acknowledging that Adrien Broner might be bringing some different things to the table. And then this is also in the article by Keith Eidick, where Jesse Vargas says, if Broner comes to fight, I'll pick him apart bit by bit. He had previously said that he looked to try to knock out Adrien Broner as well, and he thought that, but I can't see. That's something I do not see happening. This fight more than likely is going to go to a decision. I'm like 99% that this fight is going to go to a decision. Jesse Vargas has knocked out only 33% of his professional opponents, and Adrien Broner has never been knocked out. Once their fight begins Saturday night, though, Vargas figures Broner will be surprised by what he and his trainer, Mike McCallum, consider underestimated power. If he comes to fight me on the inside, then it's going to feed right into my game plan, Vargas said it after an open workout in Las Vegas recently. Bring it on. If he wants to come and fight, then we'll pick him apart bit by bit. We're ready for any type of fight. Once he feels my power, he's going to back up and choose a better route. Marcos Maidana dropped Broner twice during their welterweight title bout. Broner hasn't been badly hurt in a fight since Broner defeated him by unanimous decision in 2013, but the former 4-division champion will face a significant size disadvantage against Vargas. The 5'10" Vargas is 4 inches taller than Broner and has competed at the welterweight limit of 147 pounds for the past 3 years. Broner repeatedly said he is the better fighter at super lightweight limit of 140, yet accepted the Vargas fight at a catch weight of 144 because Vargas was willing to come down in weight and replace an injured Omar Figueroa as Broner's opponent. Las Vegas' Vargas, 28, is expected to produce an entertaining fight when he faces Cincinnati's Broner in the main event of Showtime's triple header from Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Adrien Broner and I are entertaining fighters who come in and give it our all, Vargas said. This is a fight that will have a lot of fireworks. I'm going to switch it up. I'm here to give the fans entertainment. Some moments I'll go after him. Some moments I'll be the counterpuncher. It's based off what he brings in the ring, and we'll take it from there. The card headlined by Broner Vargas will include two title fights Showtime will televise. It'll begin with the 12-rounder between Baltimore's Gervonta Davis and Argentina's Jesus Cuellar for a version of the WBA Super Featherweight Championship. In a co-featured fight, Houston's Jermell Charlo and Hugo Santino will square off for the WBC interim middleweight title. So, you know, my heart, I'm gonna say it again, because I am so much rooting for Kevin Cunningham, and I'm really gonna do like one of my favorite subscribers always does, man, going for the underdog and really believing that the guy that's the underdog can win and overcome. I'm gonna ride with Adrien Broner. And it's because I think he has no choice but to win. And I really, really, really want to see somebody turn their career around as a result of accepting discipline in their lives. Jesse Vargas, I think, will be fine regardless. If he loses his fight to Adrien Broner, then he'll still be able to do pretty much what he's able to do now, which is get good fights against guys. He'll get another championship. He'll get a title shot, right, against somebody, even if he does lose against Adrien Broner. But if Adrien Broner loses this, I just don't see there being much more hope left in his career, honestly. And it'll just really reflect, like, it just won't be that down and out story, man, that comeback that I'm hoping for. Now, as far as the other fights that are going to go on in this card between Jermall Charlo and Santino, I think that's going to be, I see that being a knockout for Jermall Charlo. I think that Jermall Charlo is going to put himself in again to be the mandatory for the WBC 160-pound title. I don't necessarily know what that's going to mean for Jermall Charlo, because the WBC seems pretty okay with Gennady Golovkin, fighting whatever type of tomato can he can get into the ring, just as long as it ends up with Canelo Alvarez fighting for their 160-pound WBC belt. And but as long as but I expect Jermall Charlo to get through Santino, and for him to get through Santino in I think, knockout form. It was a shame in that Heelan fight. What was the guy's name? Sebastian Heelan, who I think also was an Argentine fighter. Somebody can correct me in the comment section if I'm wrong about that. He's Brazilian, or he was from Argentina. I think he's from Argentina though. But he wasn't able to really look spectacular because his opponent was fighting with one leg. So it was kind of like, we didn't really know what you could. You really couldn't tell anything out of that fight other than, Jermall he looked solid. He looked strong. I think he would have won that fight and stopped that guy regardless. But, it just didn't go the way that it should have went, or it could have went for him because of the injury. But, it is what it is with all of that, man. And there's also, of course, the last fight. Now, this is the fight that I think is going to be just right along the same lines as the same line as the Adrien Broner against Vargas fight, except for I think that where Gervonta Davis his stock hasn't dropped because of what happened outside the ring, but he's getting in with a guy that I think is a southpaw, an Argentine southpaw who really does like to let his hands go, and to me looks like he's got a pretty solid chin. So this is either going to be a fight where he winds up Gervonta Davis, if he can't hurt him, is in just for a knockdown, drag-out fight for 12 rounds that's really going to test him. And if that's the case and he's able to come through it, that might be good for him. But, it's another example of a guy that made a change. And this is why I'm rooting for Gervonta Davis in this as well, similar to Adrien Broner. He made a change in trainer to go down and work with Kevin Cunningham. And in a situation where he's isolated from Baltimore, I know that Floyd Mayweather Jr. at a point had wanted to have him train in Las Vegas, but even some interviews that Gervonta Davis gave. Gervonta Davis was talking about how he had let himself down by having not made weight in the last fight, having lost his 130-pound IBF belt on the scale, right? And that's a huge letdown for a kid's career that at only 22, I think he was 22 years old at that time, only had 18 fights. The IBF 130-pound champion, to lose it in that fashion, that really didn't speak very well of his discipline. So I think the big moment, there's going to be a couple big moments for Gervonta Davis this weekend. One is going to be the scales. Does he make weight, right? Which might be the biggest one. And then what happens into the ring. But, with that, that's my take on it. And with that, I'm out. Peace.